The UFC, the world leader in MMA. Experience it on Fox Sports 1.
Well, it's been over 6 years, but at long last, the Octagon has returned to Sacramento, and this weekend, California's capital city plays host to Fox UFC Saturday and the Flyweight Championship of the world. And there is the man of the hour, Demetrious Johnson, the UFC's first and only 125-pound champion. This marks his third title defense since being crowned back in 2012. But in order to leave Sacto with the strap, Mighty Mouse will once again have to get past the man he beat to take the gold in the first place. That is Joseph Benavidez. He trains with the world's best bantamweight and featherweight fighters. That has certainly paid dividends for our #1 flyweight contender. He's won 3 straight to earn another shot at the UFC gold. Benavidez and Johnson under the lights tomorrow. Today they make it official. It's the UFC weigh-in on Fox Sports 1.
And now, the UFC flyweight champion of the world, Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson.
Well, that was nearly 15 months ago. Tomorrow night, Demetrious Johnson aims for a repeat performance. You are watching the UFC weigh-in on Fox Sports 1, brought to you by Rise Son of Rome, only on Xbox One and available now. And with that, we welcome you inside the arena. That is the gold that will be on the line here in Sacramento tomorrow night. John Anik here alongside Chael Sonnen and Bryan Stan. And before we do get into the UFC Flyweight Championship, breaking news to start today's show. George St. Pierre announcing on a conference call earlier today he will be taking an indefinite leave of absence. He has vacated the UFC welterweight title.
John, I am thrilled for him. He's accomplished everything. He's been a man of his word. And ultimately he said, you know, I'm just not sure I want to do this anymore. Good for him. Happy holidays. Bad for us. Bad for me and the rest of the fans out there, but we'll deal.
He's certainly a man of conviction and really seemed to be so liberated after making that announcement today. But the division moves on, and that's a big reason why GSP is getting out of the way, and UFC President Dana White is moving swiftly. We've got a welterweight title fight. Johnny Hendricks, Robbie Lawler. That's a big win for Big D.
You know, if you're going to lose GSP, that's a nice consolation prize. You get Robbie Lawler, who was one of the top welterweights in the world a decade ago. Look at the run he's been on with, showcasing the improvements with his new training camp versus Johnny Hendricks, one of the most explosive fighters in the sport. I cannot wait for that title fight.
All right, well, we shall see how it plays out. That is yours on March 15th. We'll have more on GSP throughout the weekend, but let's get to our main event. It is a championship rematch between top flyweight Demetrious Johnson and the #1 contender Joseph Benavidez. Now, Bryan, they met once before. Big speed discrepancy in that first meeting.
Certainly, Demetrious Johnson's the fastest fighter on the planet, but what's so impressive to me is that he gets better with each title defense. He is not a complacent champion. How often do you see a guy get to the top of the sport and showcase these kinds of improvements? I think fatherhood has him more focused than ever. He's looking to solidify his legacy as a champion in this sport. Brian, I'll acknowledge the speed that you bring up, but I will raise you a significant power advantage for Joseph Benavidez. Look, when Joseph hits you in the face, it's like when the croupier waves his hand over the roulette wheel. It's all over. It's done. He can also go to the body. He can also hit you with knees. He can also wrestle, ground and pound, and push the pace. This is the right guy for the job. He's waited. He's earned. He's worked so hard for this. He's traveled the world to get it. He had to go to Brazil to become the #1 contender, and he's done it.
And he has certainly chewed up and spit out other contenders in getting back to this title shot. So they went the full 5 rounds back in September of 2012. 25 more minutes scheduled for tomorrow night. And yes, the title will be up for grabs once again. Now with more on our main event, we turn it over to the 4th member of our broadcast team. He is Ariel Helwani.
You know, guys, as you may recall, this fight was moved from the Ultimate Fighter in Las Vegas to here in Sacramento, and typically that would annoy Joseph Benavidez. But he said he was absolutely thrilled when he found out he'd be fighting here in Sactown for essentially 2 reasons. 1, 3 of his other Team Alpha Male members are also fighting on this card, and 2, he lives here. He says it's been a joy spending fight week here, staying at his place, sleeping in his own bed, and one thing he hasn't been doing is watching that first fight against Johnson. He said he only watched it once. That was in September of last year, the night it actually happened. He got it out of his system and doesn't feel the need to watch it again. Now Johnson, who by the way doesn't believe Benavidez, he's seen his stock rise exponentially since that first fight. This will be his third time main eventing a Fox show this year, and he's finally getting the respect that he deserves. And John, I know you call him the best athlete in the UFC. If he can win tomorrow night against Benavidez in his adopted hometown, he might very well be one of the very best fighters in the UFC as well.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from me, so that's your title fight in the main event. We've got what looks very much like a title eliminator in the co-main event, and that brings us to our Twitter poll question of the day. Should the winner of Uriah Faber and Michael McDonald get an immediate bantamweight title shot? You can tweet your votes. The hashtags 135 title shot or 135 no shot. Results, as always, later in the program. All right, when we come back, it is the inconvenient truth. Demetrius Johnson, Joseph Benavidez, and the rest of our competitors are set to hit the scale in Sacramento. This is the UFC weigh-in on Fox Sports 1, brought to you by Rise Son of Rome, only on Xbox One, available now.
Either.
No, we do not hear Ariel.
Oh, now I hear you.
Now.
Hi, 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 hi.
And we welcome you back live. It is the UFC weigh-in here on Fox Sports 1. John Anik, Chael Sonnen, Brian Stan, Ariel Helwani joining us now here at the desk. And now it is officially time to tip the scales. We sent it down below. Joe Rogan on the mic for the UFC weigh-in.
What's happening, Sacramento? Welcome to the weigh-ins. Ariane, Brittany, and Vanessa. Dana White, without him, none of this would be possible. Joe Silva, best matchmaker on earth. And Burt Watson, babysitter to the stars. We're going to get things cracking, folks. We got a hell of a card. And we're going to kick it off in the flyweight division. Darren Ueyonama versus Altekin Ozkalic.
The greatest honor of any competitor is to fight for the pride and the glory of your country. It is the Ultimate Fighter Nations, Australia versus Canada, coming to Fox Sports 1 beginning January 15th.
They call him the Turkish Delight, fellas. That's something that my grandmother used to make me back in the day. He's actually, back in the day, was a roommate with Josh Sampo, who just made his UFC flyweight debut, and a very impressive fighter, making his UFC debut on a 3-fight winning streak. and most recently fought in May of 2013 against WEC veteran Antonio Banuelos.
125 for Mr. Oskalic. And his opponent, Darren Uenoyama.
All right, so a new opponent, Chael, for Darren Uenoyama to kick off the card here tomorrow night.
Yeah, this is Darren. Look, he's very good. BC for short, guys. He calls himself the Bone Crusher. He was a college wrestler. He's also got a black belt under Half Gracie, which is very meaningful because Half doesn't give a lot of those out. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that one of Darren's heroes in life is my partner on UFC tonight, Kenny Florian.
How about that?
Wow. Needs new heroes.
125 for Darren. First fight of the night, ladies and gentlemen, Darren Uenoyama and Altekin Oskalic. The next fight will take place on Fox Sports Live in the prelim. Starting out the lightweight division, Abel Trujillo versus Roger Bowling.
Guys, I cannot wait to see what happens in this stare down. A lot of bad blood here. Remember, they fought back in August of this year. It was a no contest after an apparent illegal knee. I spoke to Bowling after the fight. He said it was dirty. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take your head off. I want to fight him tonight. That was back in August, if they let me. He wanted to fight. He was so upset, and he said it all stemmed from the weigh-ins. They went head-to-head. He didn't feel like he respected him. It was very tense. I'm curious to see what happens here.
155. And his opponent, Abel Trujillo.
Well, Errol, interesting comments on Bowling. I actually talked to one of Abel Trujillo's high school wrestling teammates who told me that it's been one of his goals to fight in the UFC back since he was in high school, but he also informed me that Abel is a very talented freestyle rapper. So maybe you can get him to do that on your show.
That'd be great.
But I agree with you. I cannot wait for this fight. I think this is a sleeper for fight of the night. It's going to get things kick-started for us right tomorrow night.
155 for Abel. First fight in the prelims on Fox Sports 1, ladies and gentlemen. Roger Bowling and Abel Trujillo.
Chael, who do you like, Bowling or Trujillo?
I like Roger Bowling. I like that face-off. I like his power. I like it by knockout.
Hands of Stone Stout versus Cody McKenzie.
You know, guys, I spoke to Cody McKenzie's coach, Rick Little, and he told me that McKenzie has the perfect body to pull off the guillotine. You know, he calls it the McKenzie team. 11 of his 13 wins have come via that move, but he hasn't had one in quite some time. He looked very good back at 155. He's such an interesting guy. He said, I didn't go to school. I went to Fight University, the school of hard knocks. I got a degree in kicking ass. Never made it to college. I thought it was a waste of money. Way too much for an education I can learn for free. One of the more interesting characters in our sport. It's good to see him back on the winning track at 155.
Shocking. He actually looks like a college man.
I was gonna... Same school Helwani went to, I believe.
155 for Mr. McKenzie. And his opponent, Sam Stout.
Well, to piggyback, Errol, off what you said about the body type, Sam Stout actually said it was really hard for him to get motivated for this fight against Cody. He's a 6-time Fight of the Night winner, and when he watched tape, he said initially he wasn't that motivated. He didn't think he was that good, but he said after watching his fights multiple times, he said, you know, it really sank in. This kid is dangerous in really odd places in the octagon. I've got to be careful in this fight.
Must win for Sam Stout. He's traded wins and losses. He needs a win here.
154 for Mr. Stout.
Brian Stan, how about a prediction?
You know, I think Sam Stout pulls it out. I think that his back's against the wall for this fight. I think he uses just enough striking and angles to stay away from Cody and score points to win a decision.
Cody McKenzie and Sam Stout, ladies and gentlemen. Next we move to the flyweight division. Scott Young Gun Jorgensen versus Zach Makowski.
Well, Friday, January 3rd, one of the best bowl games of the year is on Fox. The 13th-ranked Oklahoma State Cowboys opposite the 8th-ranked Missouri Tigers. The AT&T Cotton Bowl Classic is Friday, January 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It is only on Fox.
Amazingly, Makovsky last fought on November 22nd. 2-0 since dropping down to 125. He's been a guy who's done very well in the regional scene, and his nickname is Fun Size. Tara LaRosa, a women's MMA veteran, didn't really understand his name, couldn't say it properly, so she said, I'm going to call you Fun Size, and it stuck.
125 for Zach. And his opponent, Scott Jorgensen.
Believe it or not, guys, Scott Jorgensen isn't making his flyweight debut tomorrow night because he's lost 3 of his last 4 as a bantamweight. He said he was planning on going down to 125 before the Faber fight, which happened in April, of course. You know, he said that he just feels like he's too small for 135. Feels great in the weight cut, but he said he weighed 133 on Wednesday. Bit of a crier when he cuts weight, so I'm curious to see how he looks now in his flyweight debut.
Chael got a prediction for us?
Yeah, I do. I got Jorgensen.
24.5 for Scott.
There's actually a few moving parts here, John. I'll get into that later if we have time, but I really like Jorgensen in this weight class, not just in this fight.
Ladies and gentlemen. Next we move to the lightweight division. Bobby King Green versus Pat Bam Bam Healy.
The first person Pat Healy ever sparred with is yours truly. I helped start his career. He had his very first fight, and I get a call from his mother that says, hey, he's only 17. I said, oh, no, do you want me to cancel his fight? And she said, no, I want tickets.
That just showcases how old you are, Chael.
155 for Bam Bam.
You're the only one that picked up on that, Stan.
And his opponent, Bobby Green.
What an incredible story for Bobby Green. You know, most people don't know this. He was a foster child at age 5, but he talked about how this is living dreams for him to fight in the UFC. He's on a 6-fight win streak, and when you get a guy this zoned in, this focused, who's been to the bottom and is now at the top of his game, that makes him very tough to beat in the octagon.
Guys, are those Burger King hats he's handing out, those little crowns? It looked like he stopped by for a Whopper meal earlier today.
They are not. He calls himself Bobby the King Green.
And if you're wondering about that interesting facial hair, he says that's kind of his war paint. That's his mask. He does it before his fights. And, you know, it's very interesting, guys. This is a guy who fought the Fight for the Truth show not too long ago. It was a very controversial fight, comes right back in there, and he's a very intense guy. Shuts off his cell phone during training camp. No one can reach him. It's almost impossible. His manager even has a hard time. But one of those guys who's bounced around and now finding his place in the UFC.
155 for Mr. Green.
Hey, Brian, who's the pick to click here?
I'll tell you what, this is one of the toughest fights to pick on the card. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Pat Healy just based on experience and that grinding style, but it's going to be close.
That's an excellent matchup, ladies and gentlemen. Pat Bam Bam Healy and Bobby King Green. Next fight also takes place in the lightweight division. Danny Let's Call Castillo versus Edson Jr.
Guys, safe to say that Edson Barboza has been fighting essentially since day one. He was born 3 months premature. The doctors told his parents that he would die for sure. As a result, he had to stay in the hospital for about 4 months. His first bassinet was a shoebox. He has, of course, developed into an amazing martial artist, and he says he loves this fight against Castillo in his hometown of Sacramento.
155 from Mr. Barboza. And his opponent, Danny Let's Call Castillo.
Well, don't miss an all-new episode of UFC Ultimate Insider every Sunday. It is only on your home for UFC action, Fox Sports 1.
Well, we got Danny Castillo here. You know, guys, he's got a lot of experience, and this is another guy that's trained out here. He's got the hometown crowd on his side, as you can hear, and he always comes out with his trademark tuxedo, and I still don't know if I like that or not.
And, you know, Danny Castillo is one of those guys in WEC who we didn't know how he would fare in the UFC, but he's really evolved a lot. Dwayne Ludwig told me he's improved the most in Team Alpha Male.
Ariel, how about a prediction on this one?
Gosh, this is the classic wrestler versus striker matchup, and I got to go with Edson. He's just too dynamic on his feet.
And he trains in New York or something like that, so yeah.
Nah, that doesn't matter.
The next fight takes place in the welterweight division. Court McGee versus BRYAN LAFLARE.
Fox UFC Saturday is tomorrow, beginning with the prelims here on Fox Sports 1, and then a full card of epic bouts on Fox, including Demetrius Johnson defending his World Flyweight Championship against the top-ranked contender Joseph Benavidez. Fox Sports is your home for UFC action.
And guys, LaFlare has been very busy this year. He got this fight 4 days after his last win back in November, and he said, "Keep feeding me Ultimate Fighter, guys." He got one in Court McGee.
All right, Court McGee won the Ultimate Fighter. Now, his life got really off track at one point, and he credits MMA for turning it around. Specifically, he references having to make weight this very day for getting his life back on track and forcing him to lead a clean and disciplined lifestyle.
Brian, Stan, our feature bout of the prelims, who do you like?
I'm going to go with Court McGee, but I think this fight is closer than people realize. Ryan LaFlare is very good, but McGee gets better later in the fight. I think that wins it for him by decision.
We kick things off in the lightweight division. Joe Lozon versus Benavidez.
On Sunday, the second-ranked Syracuse Orange head to Madison Square Garden to take on the St. John's Red Storm. It's an early season showdown and renewal of that classic rivalry. Coverage begins Sunday at noon Eastern and only on Fox Sports 1.
Mac Danzig, he won the Ultimate Fighter 6. Really interesting as he talks about the appreciation to fight a guy like Joe Lozon, who's synonymous with winning Fight of the Night bonuses.
155. His opponent, Joe Lozon.
I saw Joe Lozon earlier today in the lobby of the hotel. He told me, "I will let this fight go wherever my opponent wants to go. You want a box, fine. You want a grapple, deal." He told me, if this guy's a master, I'm a professor.
And you know, Joe Lozon has been saying that he's focused a little too much on bonuses. He just wants a win. Just get me a win. 10 seconds in, I don't care, but let's stop the talk about all the bonuses.
Chael, Joe Lozon about a 2-1 favorite in this spot. You think he gets it done?
55.
I think this is most likely the fight of the night. I think the other fighters know it, and yes, I do. I think Joe Lozon is going to be back in top form.
And Joe Lozon. Next, we move to the featherweight division. Chad Mendes versus Nick the Carney Lentz.
The people's main event, guys. What a story Nick Lentz is. I mean, this is a guy who was cut from the UFC on Christmas Eve. He gets another chance, wins the Fight of the Night bonus, gives that money to his father for his chemo treatment so that he can survive, and he does. His father is back after surviving and back fighting back here to watch his son fight. But this is a guy who has fought 13 times. This will be his 13th fight in the UFC, his first time on the main card.
145 for Mr. Lentz. And his opponent, Chad Mendes.
Mendes comes in as by far the biggest favorite on this fight card, but I also feel like he has the most to lose. He has been a finishing machine at featherweight so far since losing to Jose Aldo years ago. But if Nick Lentz can pull it off, Chad Mendes by far will lose the most. But he flat out said at the press conference, Mendes, he said, "I do not like this guy. I cannot wait to knock him out."
145 for Mr. Mendes.
Contrary to what Nick Lentz says, I think
and Chad Mendes, ladies and gentlemen, let him know.
I think Chad Mendes is on a whole other level. I think he gets another finish tomorrow.
Next fight is the co-main event of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, in the bantamweight division. Uriah Faber versus Michael McDonald.
Honestly, guys, I'm not sure that there's a more impressive young man in the UFC than Michael McDonald. Wise beyond his years, and you know, this is a guy who says that the biggest mistake he made early in his career was that he didn't pay attention to his body, and he didn't treat his body like an employee. Well, he's doing that now, and he says his diet, the way he reacts to his training, is a big key for him for why he's looking so good as of late.
135 1/4.
All right, Ariel Helwani, thank you very much. I know you got to head backstage. We will hear from you later in the hour.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Beat it, Ariel. Uriah Faber is easily the most popular fighter in the history of this division. Most people think he is the world champion. He's actually the former WEC champion, and he has never been ranked out of the top 5 in the past half of a decade.
$135 for the California Kid. That is one fantastic matchup, ladies and gentlemen. Michael McDonald and Uriah Faber. Now we're going to take a closer look at the two men involved in the main event of the evening, brought to you by Rise, Son of Rome, only on Xbox One, available now.
My first fight with Demetrius was for the inaugural flyweight championship.
Look at how quick that is.
He didn't beat me up. I came closer in the fight to finishing him. It could have gone either way. This time is going to be a lot different.
I'm the champion, but when it comes to getting ready for fights, whether it's a belt on the line or not, I'm just going there to perform and be at my best.
Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is, in my opinion, the most technically sound fighter in the UFC today.
170 significant strikes landed by the champion.
He's the fastest guy in MMA, no questions asked, but he's just another man.
Benavidez has won 3 in a row, the last 2 by vicious knockout.
Joseph Benavidez has done it again.
When I go in there, I'm going to put on a really good fight. I don't see it happening any other way than me winning.
If I look at these two guys on paper, it's one of the best matchups in a long time.
There could be a little rivalry here. We're going to punch each other in the face, and the outcome is going to be the same.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the two best flyweights on the planet Earth. Introducing the challenger, Joseph Benavidez.
Interesting, in the lead-up to the fight, Benavidez said what went wrong in the first fight was that he actually took it too serious. He made too big a deal out of that title shot, and he thinks it held him back when he got in the octagon, that he was just trying to force some of his strikes. For this fight, he said he made it like any other fight. He's relaxed, he can't wait, and he's excited to showcase his new skills in this next challenge against Demetrius Johnson.
$125 for the challenger.
Shay, I'll tell you what, that looks to be the best shape I've seen Joseph Benavidez in his career.
He's been walking around all week like he knows something the rest of us don't.
Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson.
The champ is here. Guys, Demetrius Johnson, not only the world champion, he's also a very humble and quiet guy, but he did come out this week and he said, you know, I'm a far better technician. He said my opponent, Joseph Benavidez, sure, he swings hard, and then he just closes his eyes and hopes for the best.
Wow. Maybe they should fight.
That's different, Chael.
125 for the champion!
And he's on weight.
For all the marbles, ladies and gentlemen, in the main event, Joseph Benavidez and Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Thank you very much. We will see you all tomorrow night.
All right, just the way you would like a weigh-in to go as we welcome you back here up high to the Fox Sports desk. All 11 of tomorrow's fights are now official. 10 of those bouts scheduled for 3 rounds. Our championship main event is set for 5 5-minute rounds. Chael Sonnen, you've been in several UFC title fights. How does the preparation differ when you know you might have to go an extra 10 minutes?
Look, John, the answer you give people is, oh, nothing's different. It's another day at the office. It all changes inside. You got a little more pep in your step. You got a little more on the line. You're running a little bit harder. You're throwing a few more punches each day. Why? Because it comes down to conditioning. When you're in there at a 25-minute fight, when you're in there on this level, everybody can punch and kick, everybody can grapple, everybody's got experience, but one guy can push longer, harder than the other.
No doubt about it. The difference is 10 minutes of fighting. That's a lot. There's not much you want to do for 25 minutes straight. It's an incredible difference, and there's a danger there of overtraining when you go from, like Joseph Benavidez, getting used to training for 3-round fights, now going for a title fight that's 25 minutes. You could actually over-prepare yourself and wear your body out.
For so many of these guys, though, confidence really inexorably linked to conditioning and cardio. These are 2 well-conditioned machines that will face off in our main event tomorrow night. All right, now it is time to employ the Fox Sports Strike Zone and break down the keys to victory for the flyweights in our main event. Bryan, Stan, kick us off with the champion, Demetrius Johnson.
Let's start off with his striking. He varies it so well from southpaw to orthodox, and he's very effective in the clinch, but 436 significant strikes, the most in his division. His footwork is incredible. We've also seen, and this was big in their first fight, his takedown ability. He has 40 takedowns, the most among fighters, 135 pounds and under, but his timing of those takedowns is incredible. His keys to victory is he's got to push the pace. He is the fastest man on the planet. I guarantee you he will move for 25 minutes nonstop. And his footwork, he can be a ghost in there. He hits angles and hits you off of those angles and cuts, and he loves to counter-strike. He's a great matador. He dangles himself out there just as you lunge for to hit him. He cuts and hits you back, and he hits hard.
All right, now let's take a look at his challenger, Joby 1. Look, Joby can go out there and box himself, but he will always trick you. As soon as you think he's going to just be working the hands, that's when he slips in the knees and the kicks. That's coming with Team Alpha Male and, of course, Dwayne Ludwig. He always pushes the pace. He can wrestle, but above everything, guys, he hits so darn hard. He uses his wrestling defensively. He uses the offensive takedowns just to keep you guessing so he can punch you. Keys to victory, he needs to use his strength. He appears to be a slightly bigger guy. He needs to look for the clinch. This is going to do 2 things. Most importantly, slow down the champ. And third, and I would argue most importantly, he's got to take DJ down. He's got to get his hands on him and be able to control him. Don't stay in the open with this guy.
We know Joseph Benavidez so driven by that elusive UFC gold. He was the favorite the last time these guys met. He is a slight underdog here in the rematch with Demetrius Johnson. All right, earlier today we asked you, the fans, if you believe our co-main event should determine the next challenger for the bantamweight title. And so far, 60% of you think the winner of Faber versus McDonald should get the next crack. Remember those hashtags, 135 title shot or 135 no shot. We will get you final results before we get off the air. All right, straight ahead, we hope to have the man in the spotlight, the UFC flyweight kingpin Demetrius Johnson, right here on set with us. What does Mighty Mouse have to do to best Benavidez once again? Find out after the break on America's new sports network.